Now, people who are worried about widening inequality are also worried about something else. It's not upward mobility, it's not even trust. They are worried about the undermining of democracy. When so many resources, so much money, so much wealth, so much income accumulates at the very top, that with money comes the capacity to control politics.
Nothing sinister the way it starts. Usually they bring in somebody you haven't seen for a few years. You know they're paying them 10 grand. Might be the best man in your wedding or a guy you played football with. You say, Eddie, hell, I haven't seen you. And then they say, no, I'd like to turn it over to old Freckles here. And then they give you the whole load.
But money, I mean, do the lobbyists come in? And obviously the unspoken reality is we can help you in your next election if you cooperate with us.
There's a guy in every office to say, so-and-so wants to see you. He's from the American Shoe Leather Company. They have maxed out, meaning they gave you the maximum in your primary when you first started. They gave you the maximum in every general. You've run 3 times now, and they were there for you at every point. And what for? Access.
This is actually where there is blame, and I think the blame is justifiable. It's not that people are rich, it's that they abuse their wealth by lobbying for bailouts and subsidies and taxes that are going to entrench their wealth. That's the reason why the rules have changed so dramatically. Look at history. Inequality and top tax rates have had an inverse relationship. When inequality was lowest, top tax rates were higher. When inequality was highest, tax rates on the wealthy went down. Under Dwight D. Eisenhower, he was a Republican. Nobody dared call him a socialist. The top marginal tax rate was 91%. I mean, even when you consider all deductions and all tax credits, they were still paying way over 50%.
I, John Fitzgerald Kennedy, do solemnly swear
that I will faithfully execute
the office
of President of the United States. So help me God.
So help me God.
Taxes on the top were never below 70% until Reagan dropped those taxes on the top.
Read my lips. No new taxes.
I, William Jefferson Clinton,
I, George Walker Bush,
do solemnly swear.
do solemnly swear.
I, Barack Hussein Obama, do solemnly swear.
In fact, most of the very rich in this country don't even pay close to that because most of their income is in the form of capital gains, which is now taxed at 15%.
My total taxes paid, payroll taxes plus income tax, mine came to 17.7%. The average for the office was 32.9%. There wasn't anybody in the office, from the receptionist on up, that paid as low a tax rate. The taxation system has tilted toward the rich and away from the middle class in the last 10 years. It's dramatic, and I don't think it's appreciated.
What's the effective rate I've been paying? Well, it's really closer to the 15% rate than anything.
Mr. Romney's income taxes were finally posted, and he paid 13.9%. Nancy and I paid 33% or more, in the 30s, and I find that atrocious.
I paid 11% last year on an 8-figure income.
Wowzer.
So less than Mitt Romney. When you give rich business people tax breaks all in the name of job creation, all that really happens is that the fat cats get fatter. And of course, that's what's happened over the last 30 years. That's the signature feature of the economy over the last 30 years.
Look, nobody wants to pay taxes. But taxes are the price we pay to finance the kinds of things that we can't do individually, that we need to do together. there's kind of a negative trickle-down effect, and it starts in Washington. I mean, if the wealthy are not paying their fair share, and if the middle class are basically stagnant and are not paying much in taxes because they're not making much money, then you're going to have a budget crisis somewhere along the line. That means less revenue sharing with the states. That means the states have to pull in their belts. They cannot support public higher education. As state funding to institutions of higher education went down, tuitions went up to compensate. At Berkeley, where I teach, in the 1960s, tuition was free. In the 1970s, it was $700 a year, in today's dollars. But now, it costs $15,000 for in-state residents.
Next week, members of Congress are going to have a chance to vote on what we call the Buffett rule, and it's simple. If you make more money, more than $1 million a year, not if you have $1 million, but if you make more than $1 million a year, you should pay at least the same percentage of your income in taxes as middle-class families do.
He is killing the economy, and this is class warfare.
I think Barack Obama is a socialist.
There'll only be a minimum tax on people who make lots of money.
More class warfare from an affable billionaire.
Is he completely a socialist?
Is Warren Buffett a socialist? You really have no clue what socialism is, do you?
CEOs and Wall Street have been doing enormously well. Why should they get continued tax cuts when, in fact, we have a huge deficit way down the line?
Robert Reich. You know Robert Reich?
I do indeed.
He's a communist. You know that, right?
Yeah. Communist/socialist.
Okay. The guy secretly adores Karl Marx and is up there in Cambridge. Okay, now.
Can I just be clear about this? I am not, nor have I ever been, a member of the Communist Party or a communist. A lot of people are watching Fox, and I like Fox, and I like appearing with you, and I like you personally. I used to be on O'Reilly's show. In fact, I even substituted for Bill O'Reilly a couple of times. He asked me. I was on Fox quite a lot.
Joining us now is former Labor Secretary, our good friend Robert Reich. Secretary, how are you, my friend? Good to see you.
But no longer. They don't ask. The football field of American politics has kept on shifting to the right. But I just, basically I just stand here. I've watched it move. I used to be something of a centrist. In fact, my first job was in the Ford administration. Hello, that's a Republican administration. You were considered conservative in the 1990s. You almost became the majority leader of the Senate.
Could have been king.
Our staffs were not terribly happy that we were getting together. My staff said, don't have lunch with this right-winger. From Wyoming. There's nothing in it. We were approached about doing a show.
Oh, Robert, good to see you again. Good evening. Yeah, please. Thank you so much. Hook up here.
You're now considered a moderate, if not lefty.
Commie.
What happened?
And they came in, and they brought with them an anti-government hatred. And you don't have adversaries anymore, you have enemies.
There does seem to be a strong correlation between a political polarization, on the one hand, and widening economic inequality. Researchers measured the distance between the median voting patterns of one party and the other party, and what they found is that in times of high inequality, you have the highest degree of polarization. It almost tracks exactly. You see how totally integrated and connected the issue of inequality is to our democracy. And you see how the ultimate guardians of our democracy, if Congress doesn't do it, and if the executive doesn't do it, the ultimate guardians are up here. In 2010, the Supreme Court, in Citizens United, decided that corporations are people. And as Citizens United was interpreted by lower courts, it basically said that corporations, wealthy individuals, anybody who has a lot of money can flood the political system, can basically inundate our democracy with their money.
Mr. Wertheimer?
Robert, how are you?
How are you?
The idea that a corporation could spend $1 billion in an election to elect a president, and it would not have the capacity to have a corrupting influence over government decisions, is a concept from another planet. The money isn't new. The quantity of the money is new.
In the last presidential election, we saw for the first time in this country billionaires, I mean a handful of billionaires, contributing huge sums of money to individual candidates, basically keeping those candidates going.
I mean, is this America? Not in my mind. I think it's absolutely stupefying. I think if you keep going in the next presidential election, it will be, have you got $300 million in your pocket? Because you can buy a president.
There are liberal billionaires. There are conservative billionaires. So if you see someone buying a result that you like, someone else can buy a result that you're going to hate if they can give a huge amount of money. You cannot have government on the auction block.
When we see the contrast between the values we share and the realities we live in, that is the fundamental foundation for social change.
You work for us! You work for us!
The Tea Party movement was born in the wake of the Wall Street bailout.
We want to make sure that the government is doing what's right for all people, not just for some of the people.
An everyday Tea Partier is an American citizen that is frustrated with the direction the country's going.
The banks got bailed out, we got sold out.
The Occupy movement has focused its wrath on Wall Street and big corporations.
The White House is really in the pockets of the banks.
It's a plutocracy, basically.
It's not about the money and how much money people have. It is about people not having their voices heard.
There's so many people who lost their jobs. There's so many people who lost their homes. It's just totally unfair.
You've got a lot of people who feel like the game is stacked against them.
Can you hear us now?
The game is rigged.
Can you hear us now?
We need to get lobbyists, Goldman Sachs, George Soros, Merrill Lynch, everyone out of our politics. Why should they be allowed to throw millions at politicians? They're supposed to be our voice, not their voice.
Losers of rigged games can become very angry.
You don't love America. You don't love the Constitution. You don't love anything but your stupid, smart-ass, taking little self. You take
Most people are still worried about their jobs. They're angry, they are frustrated, they're looking for people to blame.
We think the Muslims are moving in and taking over.
One nation under God, not Allah.
These trends are dangerous. We're seeing an entire society that is starting to pull apart.
At Cal Berkeley, after being beaten by police and cleared out of their protest site, Occupy Cal was back with a full day of protest activities today. Joining us now is Cal Berkeley professor Robert Reich.
On campus, there is a kind of mood of restlessness and uncertainty. A lot of the students don't know if the police are coming back in. The irony of all of this is that instead of allowing people to peaceably assemble to express their outrage at how much money is now going into politics, we've got mayors and other officials all over the country who are saying, you can't assemble, you can't express yourself, but we are going to listen to the money from the big corporations that now are basically engulfing American politics. We are losing equal opportunity in America. We are losing the moral foundation stone on which this country and our democracy are built. It undermines our democracy when all that money can come down from the wealthy, from the corporations, when there are no limits to the amount of money that can infect and undermine and corrupt our democracy. Then what do we have left? What do we have left?